Okay.
You didn't get 1,000 retweets.
Yeah, well, the bees in this shoe now, so I've got a reputation to uphold, I guess. Okay, let's do this, nerds. Right, well, I suppose that I owe you guys a little bit of an update, especially since y'all retweeted the tweet. Thank God for Twitter clout, I guess. Obviously, in some senses, it's been intentional for me to be pretty quiet about what's been going on. In some senses, it hasn't been, and I've tried to be fairly transparent in other ways, in ways that I sort of can during this time as a freelancer. Obviously, to a degree, I've been quite busy because I'm still trying to produce content and sort of be out there, but also trying to adjust our entire life to care for a beautiful baby boy who came into the world in early January. So apologies for those that have been frustrated by the lack of info from me. Obviously I became a freelancer at the end of my at the end of the Overwatch League, right? That was like October the 15th, I want to say, something like that. And mid-October, my contract went until the end of the season. Now, in the past, this wasn't the case. My Overwatch League contract actually went through the entire calendar year, and I often found that I spent 3 months at the end of 1 year, and then 3 months at the end of the next, doing not a whole lot. Yeah, to be honest, I was still on contract, I was still getting paid, so that was fine, but that didn't really jive very well with me. Someone who really wants to be getting out there and continuing to stay sharp. So that's one of the reasons why I built a freelance period in. Theoretically, I could have gotten more money from the league to be exclusive during that period of time, and maybe I'd be available to them to use on whatever content or flash ops or whatever it was. But I didn't want to just collect a paycheck and potentially do nothing, as has been the case in the past. I really wanted to get out there. I'd rather less money than to sort of sit idle. For those that don't know a lot about my background, I was a play-by-play caster that trained under the very best of like the original wave of play-by-play casters, the people who wrote the book on play-by-play commentary, and I took a lot of their lessons to heart, and I developed them into a lot of my style. I'm a multi-game caster. I would say by this point, I've probably covered. I'm one of the most prolific commentators as a play-by-play caster over a bunch of different titles at the top level. I don't know if there's too many people that come close. There's maybe a couple. I wanted to remind myself, and honestly everyone else, of just how flexible I could be, and that I wasn't just pigeonholed as that Overwatch League guy. I also had a kid, and while that was awesome, I wanted to continue to chase my dreams, and I don't want to get complacent and just like sink into obscurity and let fatherhood sort of dominate my entire existence. That wasn't what my identity wanted to be, or wanted my identity to be, even though I wanted that to be a part of my identity for sure, because being a father is wonderful. But first and foremost, I am a very passionate lover of esports and telling stories. So the first thing that came up was that I had a chance to audition for Brawl Stars, which is a mobile 3v3 brawler, basically. It's like a mobile game. It's actually really good. I played it when it first came out. It's made by Supercell, do Clash of Clans and all that sort of stuff. And, it wasn't just like, hey, yo, we want Uber to come and do this. It was like, you have a chance to audition. So I was like, okay, that's kind of sick. I'm going to get in here and I'm going to, I got to go up against these other commentators for the spot. And this is kind of sick. So, I relish the opportunity to audition for that and not just, coast straight on in. It's something I'll talk about a little bit later. So yeah, I thought that was a sick opportunity, and I wanted to see if I could actually do it. It turns out that that audition went fairly well, and I was involved in the Brawl Stars Championship, at least for this first monthly finals. You can find that out there if you're interested. I had a great time. They're great people to work with. On the other hand, of course, Valorant, really started to pop off a little bit, sort of definitely right now, but last year, obviously, when it was released and announced, there was a lot of hype around it, and I was interested in the game from the very beginning. I think it's as someone who is quite a seasoned Counter-Strike commentator, some of you may not know that, and someone who obviously has worked in games like League of Legends in the past. I'm no stranger to Riot Games and working with Riot. It was a very powerful intersection of genres at which I excelled at, right? I was a strong tac shooter caster. There was quite a ceiling on tac shooter casting in Counter-Strike because you had very established names, and then everybody else. So it's very, very hard to break into the circuit. And I worked for ESL, which had its own complications at the time. So it was a really great combo for me. So I said, okay, I'm freelance now. Let's have a look into this a little bit more. And I found very quickly that the scene was in like a very strange place because there was a really disproportionate amount of interest from commentators, not only established commentators, but people that had picked up casting as a result of being stuck inside for COVID or had been sort of tier 2, in a bunch of different games and wanted to try and make it big. In this one, there's a ton of those. There were so many of those casters, but the amount of opportunities were fairly limited, especially ones that paid a reasonable amount. I'll talk about that later as well. I found that it was pretty difficult for established casters to get involved in Valorant. Outside of those that did First Strike was definitely an event where Riot wanted to target casters that had experience, that were established. Not me at the time, but there was reasons for that. But I didn't want to use my name, my brand, any of that to just get in the back door. I fucking hate that. A lot of casters do it, and a lot of casters think that's fine. That is their business. But I wanted to prove myself and show that I could actually cast this game at a top level, even going up against casters with way more experience in casting Valorant specifically than me, because there've been a ton of tournaments, monthlies, all this sort of stuff where people were cutting their teeth. So during this time, I was able to begin a conversation with someone fairly high up in Riot, over in the European side of things. And it seemed like there might actually be like some interest there, an opportunity maybe for, 2021 or beyond to work along with me. It was really, really encouraging conversation. Obviously, I hadn't decided. I was a freelancer. I wanted to see what my options were. Unfortunately, I essentially, there was a great conversation. There was going to be a follow-up, and there wasn't a follow-up. I was essentially ghosted. Not a huge deal, but getting left on red on 3 different platforms by someone after having a great chat with them beforehand is like, kind of sucks, but that's fine. Despite this, I wanted to press on and still prove that I could hang and, I could get involved at, a lower level, which was fine, providing I didn't have to undercut people to do it. And I want to show that I could stand with a lot of these casters that have been casting Valorant for months already. At the same time, I had an opportunity to get involved with Valoranting, which is a Valorant podcast that is, it's about Valorant, but it's heavily produced. It's got, really a lot of producer influence in there. Not so much scuff, a lot of, bits and pieces going on that kind of made it a really fun show to work on. And that was good because, I didn't really have a podcast platform in Overwatch. I didn't have a chance to be part of the whole plat chat thing. And I didn't want to compete with them in Overwatch. It was just, they had a lot of the people that I wanted to work with already on that show. And it's just a hassle. Like, I already get compared to those papagas enough as it is. Like, I just didn't want to have to do it again. So yeah, I got involved in Valoranting, which is great because it gave me a reason to be involved. It gave me something to look forward to every week. It was also a little bit of, I managed to get paid a little bit from doing that. But what I loved most about it was having a platform to discuss and to talk and to have fun and really to start to explore my passion for the game that was Valorant and where it was going. This platform gave me an opportunity to be fairly outspoken about a particular issue in Valorant at the time, which was there was some undercutting going on. There was also some pretty low rates being offered to casters that maybe deserved better, and they were taking them because there was such a disproportionate amount of caster interest to opportunities, and people kind of had to take them. So I was pretty heavy-handed about this, and I didn't like the hiring practices. I didn't like some of the things they did with like a caster challenge. And, despite this, NSG were very receptive to this. I spoke with their CEO, I spoke with their head of talent, and, to my understanding, things have gotten better for a lot of the casters there during that time. And also, despite this, despite me sort of going off with them, they also extended me an opportunity to work with them in Valorant. Without just going into like some Riot sanctioned product, I had a chance to work on the challenges tour, which was great because that was, where I could prove myself, you know what I mean? First up, I had a chance to cast with Nothing, who obviously many know as a Counter-Strike player at a top level, just an incredible guy in general, very knowledgeable, incredible pro player. And that was great. We worked on VCT2 together. We worked on a couple of games after teams had qualified, and I thought that was really good. I worked my ass off to prep for it because I knew that Nothing was incredibly knowledgeable about the game, but the scene maybe wasn't exactly something that he had up to his eyeballs at that point. So I wanted to supplement his incredible game knowledge with a little bit more color commentary and understanding of tendencies of teams, map picks, trends that they've exhibited, all that kind of stuff. So that went really well. Later on in VCT3, I got offered another opportunity, really last minute, but a chance to, at least be a part of it, to be on the B stream and work with Van Silly, who many know if they watch sort of Valorant casting. He was part of Masters recently. He's wasted on the desk. He's an incredible caster, very, very, very good color commentator, even though that's not his background. And I think alongside him, we managed to put together some of the best casting that had been seen in Valorant to date, and I'm willing to stand by that. Me and him, I think with our backgrounds, we came in, we put on incredible, even it was on the B stream. So yeah, not many people watching. I think it was like FaZe and Sentinels or something ridiculous on the other stream, right? So people were obviously watching that a little bit more closely. But I want to shout out to NSG because they went the extra mile to get me involved, even though I called them out, and they paid me the rate that I stipulated, which is it's a higher than industry standard. So they were willing to go to that extent to have me involved, even though I had essentially made them look a little bad by calling them out. So big shout out to them. At the same time, I'm obviously also talking with the Overwatch League. Conversations are going on because Matt's one of my closest friends, and he now is internal to Blizzard and is working more on the Overwatch League and even on the CDL on like a managerial side. Also, of course, still casting. Last year, I remember taking my headset off after the grand final cast. I've been pumping crowd audio into my headset when I cast the grand final because I desperately wanted to feel like I was in an arena, because moving away from the homestand model was heartbreaking. Moving away from the live events was devastating. Doing it in my spare room with like a green screen behind me and lights in my face at 6 a.m. It just sucked. It was awful. And I thought, man, I don't want to, like, this is not what I am passionate about. This is not where my love for casting and for Overwatch as well stems from. Obviously, it's no one's fault that we had to do this, you know what I mean? We had to adapt. And I think the Overwatch League was hit particularly hard by the pandemic situation because of how globalized that we were trying to be. And I didn't also love the move off Twitch. There were things about that were a little bit hard. Obviously, not my decision. I just wanted to put on the best broadcast possible. But, it affected me. I think it affected many of us here. But I understand why these decisions are made. Even though we have had many critics over all the decisions the Overwatch League has made, I still kind of understood. I was lucky to be privy to information that made it sense. So I'm talking with Matt a bunch about plans for next year. Are we going to cast together? Is he going to keep casting? You know what I mean? And also having a chance to talk with John Spector, someone who, God, thank God, we got him into the position that he's in the Overwatch League. I was really honest with them. I talked about him, about my fears, about, the future, and if I remained part of the Overwatch League and what I wanted to see. Frankly, I wanted to work with them on elevating the Overwatch League back up to being at least what we had dreamed it would be. Maybe not the Nate Nanza Lamborghinis and models on arms kind of idea for pro players, which, bit snake oily. I think we can all agree to that. Morgan Stanley report and all the rest. But I said to him, I really wish that this is something we can elevate and have people take seriously, and it's a true tier 1 esport, and people want to watch it. We convert our players to viewers, and it has all the trimmings that it should have, because we work our ass off on the broadcast, and there's a lot of the other stuff around the broadcast that kind of let us down. I realized really quickly that I actually believed in Matt and John in their positions at the league. I think that those guys get it. They get it. And we were potentially at a tipping point or a turning point away from some of the crappy decisions that we've had and just the amount of out of touch people that have had way too much control over the product in the past. And now maybe we have the ability to make something great out of this. I started to believe in that. And it kind of reminded me of where my passion came from in the first place. It wasn't the glam, the promise of the big names and the money and the lights and all this prestige, but it was the stories of these players, how far they'd come, the love of the game, which I think is still there, even though if you watch my streams, sometimes it can be harder to see because I'm just crap at the game. There were so many journeys that I still wanted to chronicle, and this was a community that I helped build way back in Europe, working with Jason, working on Overdrive, our YouTube channel, trying to build hype for a game that had esports potential. That was where my love of Overwatch came from. That is what informed my casting, and that is what allowed me, in my opinion, to be great. I think on my best day, there isn't a caster that can stand, above me as a play-by-play commentator. I can't always have my best day, but I feel like I am able to be that caster because I love the game and because I love the community as much as I do. I thought I was very a strong Valorant caster, and I think if I do more, I think I continue to develop and again get to a similar level there. I don't think that's out of the question. But at this time, sort of, Masters is approaching it. This is like maybe a few weeks ago from the day of recording, which is the 21st of March. I still haven't heard from Riot. I worked those couple VCT events, had really strong feedback, really strong performances, but not a word from Riot in Europe or NA. And, there's just not really much of an interest from them as far as I can tell to sort of connect and get a feel for where I'm at outside of the initial conversations that I had that didn't go anywhere. Masters came and I was informed that I was being passed over to be a part of the Valorant Masters, and there wasn't really a reason given, and this is often the case. Like, casters, we're not entitled to a reason why we're not gonna get picked up or something like this. But I can speculate. I have the liberty to sort of say, well, it might have something to do with the fact that I've been pretty outspoken lately about NSG, and some of that reflects on Riot because that's how they've conducted their stewardship of a very nascent Valorant scene. They honestly they have a signature on that paper as well, and I've indirectly called them out. I had. Especially since Griffin was born, I've just decided that I wanted to speak out about things that I feel strongly about more, and maybe they want safer people, and I think, I'll be honest, I'll just put it out there. I was like another white guy who talked about video games. Like, there are so many of us, and I can understand that maybe they didn't want another one of those on their broadcast. So really no hard feelings. You have a look at the LCS, I think you have an idea of the kind of people that Riot like to elevate into those roles, and it's possible that I just wasn't what they were looking for. That's my speculation. So that happens, and then I sort of I'm still talking with the Overwatch League, and they come to me with an offer that is extremely good. It's a great offer. It's also one that I felt it was explicit, right, that there was a commitment that they wanted to make to me in the longer term. Sorry. Year after year I was doing like these 1-year contracts, but Overwatch League say, like, we hear your concerns. I spoke to Matt and John about them, and we want to show you that you're valuable to us and that we want you to be a part of the broadcast. And it definitely felt like they, through their offer, demonstrated their appreciation of what it takes to really elevate the craft of casting to where I've managed to get it to. Their offer demonstrated a commitment and an appreciation for how hard I work on casting. So, pretty easy choice to make ultimately. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like there was this offer to do Valorant just hanging in front of my face, and I didn't strike the hand that might feed me and turn back to Daddy Overwatch. That's not the case at all. There is a reality that if I had just, stayed inside the Valorant scene as I have been and continued to do these events, that these opportunities would come up. I'm not saying that wouldn't happen. I'm not saying that Riot are unreasonable, and I'm trying to, not that at all. It's just that the chance hadn't come up yet. But the thing is, it's like I now have, I have another mouth to feed. I've got, I've got Griffin now, and I'm definitely less tolerant to risk. I just don't have the ability to go out there and say, well, who knows? I might never get paid the next 3 months, but that's fine. You know what I mean? I don't have that buffer now. I need to think a little bit more outside of myself. So it'd be nice to take a risk in some senses to see if I can get involved in the hot new thing that is Valorant when that time comes. But right now, that doesn't make a lot of sense, especially when I'm looking at a really solid offer the Overwatch League have given me. And, not a difficult decision for me to make. So, yeah, as of April 1st, I will be returning to the Overwatch League as a play-by-play commentator alongside Matthew Morello. I'll also be hoping to get involved a little bit more on the talent development side of things as well. I think that there's a lot of great talent in Overwatch in general. I hear it all the time. X should be an Overwatch League. Y should be an Overwatch League. I agree with that. It's definitely more of an issue with how much space there is and how many games there are to cast, and not people not being good enough. But I'd like to continue to invest in those that are willing to really work on the craft that is esports commentary. It's something that I, for many years, have worked to try and legitimize. As you may have seen by some of my behavior in the previous weeks dealing with tournament organizers in the Overwatch scene, but that's a story for another time. So what does this mean going ahead? So for Valorant, it means that during the Overwatch League season, I will not be casting Valorant. It is pretty standard to see exclusivity clauses in contracts, and no, I won't be casting Valorant while I'm on an Overwatch League contract. They're competing products. They have their similarities, and obviously, when I get a contract, my exclusivity is paid for. My work is paid for, and that's sort of how it goes. For Valoranting, that is something that I'd like to stay involved in, if possible. I think I've, as far as I understand, I've got clearance to stay on that podcast, which is awesome. I love working with Veli and Vansili and the guys at DNP. I love the Valorant scene. NA Valorant Twitter is incredible, and I think there's a lot of exciting stuff happening in that scene. So I'm hoping to stay involved in that, and that'll be a great way to keep myself anchored inside Valorant, which is something that, yeah, I'll be honest with you, I care about it. I care about it. I think that it is important, and I think that the stories are incredible, and I'm looking forward to staying involved to what degree that I can in that, especially because I currently don't really have a podcast platform in Overwatch to sort of spend that kind of time on. We'll see that as it goes. If I don't feel like I can do the job of the Valorant podcast host justice, then I will gracefully turn that over to the next person in line. Brawl Stars, as well, as something that I may still be able to do. It really depends on how the scheduling of, Brawl Stars Championship versus Overwatch League works. Obviously, the titles don't really compete, and very graciously, the Overwatch League have sort of said that they're willing to explore a world where I can kind of do both, which is great because it's obviously a little bit of extra pocket money for me on the side. But I also felt incredibly welcomed by the Brawl Stars community. I work with fantastic people on the broadcast in general, and it's a lot of fun to be a part of. So if I can pull that off, a little ambitious, but if I can pull that off and I can still do the job justice, then I'll stay there. But, just to wrap this up, the Overwatch League, you Overwatch fans, I truly believe that you've had the best years of my casting career, and I have been proud to dedicate those years to you. And I'm looking forward to committing another one to you because you deserve it. And I promise that I will do everything that I can to lift up this league via the commentary, by the development of talent, however I can, to take this thing to another level. We don't know yet exactly what things are going to look like next year in terms of, this year rather, in terms of quarantine and that sort of situation. But you better believe that everything in our power, we will be doing it to make this league an incredible year for everybody involved. You guys deserve it. You fans deserve it. The players also really deserve it. I really have always been about doing justice to the endeavors of these players through my casting by matching their effort and passion level in telling their story. Despite the obvious challenges, I'm looking forward to making this year one of the very best in the Overwatch League. So thanks, as always, for your support. Thanks for all the wee treats. And let's get on with the job. Let's make it happen. And let's have a great Overwatch League season.